When do you invest in stocks? You invest in stocks when they're down. You don't invest in stocks when they're up. And that's the same when it comes to business. You invest and you start things when they're down. And I actually want to show you this, and I'm glad for the video showing this graph, right? So if you can see this little dip, now that dip, if you guys can, to be fair, yeah, you don't need to open up the comments. Like you can just figure this out yourself, right? That dip, it's COVID. That's what happened. That dip is COVID, right? So obviously vacancies massively dropped, right? And people were not looking, and everyone was worried. And by the way, a lesson here. That dip shows something. That dip shows that when there is fear in the market, companies they stop hiring. When there is fear in the market, right? So understand something. If, for example, on the media, it's cost of living, recession, this is wrong, that's wrong, wars, for example, these are the things that happen and are happening on a continuously basis, then these things affect businesses wanting to hire because businesses get worried. And so that dip, obviously, it was one of the biggest worries that I think we've had in a very long time, which was everything was going to crap. And unfortunately, the world's going to end, and that's basically where that dip was. Now, what's the point I'm making here? That's not the point. I know, I mean, there's one thing that I don't do, and that's exaggerate, right? But in my own business, my best month was actually after COVID, right? And I've actually mentioned this many a times, right? And when we open up the comments, you guys can ask me the questions, and I'm sure you would have heard me say many a times before even showing you this graph that my best month was after COVID. Why? Because when companies were not actually hiring, this is just showing vacancies. But actually, what was happening is companies were also making people redundant. Redundancies were happening, which, by the way, that also happens in recessions, right? So redundancies were happening, and when redundancies happen, redundancies aren't a way for a company to say we're going to, the crap, and we're finished. Redundancies actually are a way for businesses to get rid of dead wood and hire good people. It's what I do. It's what other businesses do. A lot of businesses just get rid of dead wood during tough times. And a business will let go of 7, 8, 9, 10 people and will hire 4, 5 really good people. Now, if a business lets go of 10 people and hires 4 people, is that beneficial to a recruitment company? 100,000% yes. So let me explain. If a business lets go of 10 people, then that means there are 10 more people in the market. So there are more people looking for work. And if a business lets go of those 10 people, we now have more products that we can sell in to businesses, which in essence are candidates and people that work jobs. Now, when a company hires again, we have more candidates, we have people who are looking for jobs, and so we could put them into other companies and have them working in other companies, and we make a lot of money. Because when change is happening in recruitment, that is exactly where you make money. So you can see this from the graph in particular, right? From the dip, the highest point in terms of vacancies is that point. Now, I hadn't have seen this graph until yesterday night, to be fair. And I've mentioned many a times, I've mentioned it many a times, and I'm sure many of you would have heard this, that after COVID, I had the best month, in fact, months that I've ever had, right? So this is the point. If someone came to you in COVID and said, start a recruitment company, you would have said, you've lost the plot. Doesn't make sense. Like, it's COVID. No one's hiring. No one's hiring. Yes or no, that is exactly what your mind would have told you, and that's exactly what you would have thought. And I completely understand, by the way, right? That period of vacancies shooting up, it was probably a period of 3 months. It was probably a period of 3 months. And I want to say this in the most humbling way possible. A fresh business had the potential during that period to make crazy numbers. A fresh business could generally make like 50, 60,000 pounds in 3 months very easily during that period. Because here you have to understand something, right? If you look on the left side, it says thousands. We're not talking about 500 jobs going to 1,000 jobs. We're talking in the hundreds of thousands of jobs, right? And so that spike is massive. Now, where are we right now um, compared to previous vacancies? Number one, recruitment has been doing great. To be honest, a lot of people have made a lot of money in recruitment, and many of you guys will know people in recruitment. Many of you would have heard about the industry, right? It's been doing great since the 2000s, to be fair. Well, look at the vacancies in how many people and how many companies were actually hiring from 2009, 500,000, right? And currently we sit at 898,000. So are we actually struggling? Are companies actually hiring? Companies are hiring a lot, a lot. But I'll tell you something interesting. Companies are about to start hiring like a crazy amount. This isn't going to be a spike as big as COVID. It's not going to be as big of a spike as COVID. Like that train has definitely left. But again, when things like the UK is in a recession, and by the way, the US is in a recession, and other country. Sorry, I don't actually know if the US is in a recession, but I know the US is obviously also struggling, right? And so other countries are struggling. And so the point here being is when countries start to struggle, businesses stop hiring. And when businesses stop hiring, that adds pressure on the companies because they still have to get the projects done, they still have to get the work done, and they have to get the work done with less people. And as soon as things start picking up, like by the way, Rishi Sunak turning around and saying we're coming out of recession and things are looking to get better and better, we have started seeing the first early signs of things getting better. The early signs. We are only in the early signs, right? In the next 6 months, things will only get better and better. And when things get better and better, that is the exact time you want to start speaking to companies because companies, I promise you, in that spike, how companies were begging for me to work with them. And I was saying, I haven't got time for you. Like, I just don't have time for you. Because, and I mean this in the most respectful way, but companies were saying, we really need people. And you know what, should I tell you something crazy? Companies were calling me. Companies were calling me and saying, have you found me anyone? Have you found me anyone? And I was actually saying to the boys in the office, I was like, I don't have time. I don't have time to find these guys people. And there was one point where just I myself had, I would say, close to 35, 40 jobs. And those were jobs where it was like, we need people on Monday, like in a few days. And I just didn't have the time. And I remember actually I remember this time, and unfortunately I can't put my missus on here, right? But I remember there was a time when my little one was like, I think it was about 8, 9 months old. Yeah, he was about 8, 9 months old actually. And one of my companies that I work with said to me, listen, we need people to start in January. And it was during the Christmas break. And this was again, we were making things were getting better after COVID, right? Because it was like a December period. And the company turned around to me and said, we need about 20 people and we need them to start as soon as Christmas ends. So I had a period of 3 weeks to find 20 people. And one person I was charging £3,000 for. One person, right? And I didn't really see the reason I mentioned my missus is because my missus handled everything, and my little one was only about 7, 8 months old, and thankfully she really helped me balance everything. But I was spending like 10, 12 hours in the office, but obviously it paid out. So the point here being is that bad times only mean opportunities, and it's totally up to the individual to understand where everything is. The point here being now, a lot of you guys will have some negativity and think, oh, you know what, recruitment probably isn't going to do well, because companies aren't hiring. Oh, because vacancies, there's not that many vacancies and so on. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you always think about the what ifs, but look at that graph. And by the way, this is the ONS Gov website, whatnot, right? So this isn't just the Reddit picture or something. And so you can tell that we are post COVID, right? Sorry, rather during that COVID period, before that COVID period, we actually have more vacancies than we had before that COVID period. Yet apparently we're in tough times. And because of that, people will not make moves. And because of that, people will be fearful. And because of that, people will not try to start something for themselves. So we're in a point now where things are going down. And this is exactly what we want. We want this because you can check the media news yourself. Things are starting to improve. Things are starting to look better. And as it always does, man, things always improve and things always get better. Things never stay the same. But you know what the crazy thing is? You have an opportunity now to actually pick up companies, work with companies, win business right now because companies will get to a point where they will be desperate for you to find them people. And you could then pick 3 or 4 companies that you want to work with. And honestly speaking, your life is set as soon as you can get 3 or 4 companies. That transition is going to happen in the next 6 months. I believe that fully, like, wallahi, I'm saying in my heart, like, I believe that in the next 6 months, we are going to have a spike of vacancies. And that is a perfect opportunity for anyone that is actually looking to start a recruitment company, because you will get clients that would never have worked with you previously because they are desperate for people now. And that is exactly where you close them, you do sales with them, you find them good candidates. There is a particular way you start working exclusively with them. And if you get three companies working exclusively with you, only giving you three jobs, only three people, they need three people a month. I've told you the maths himself. And by the way, to give you guys an idea, just so you know, and I say this, right, because I completely understand that in your heads and in your minds, and as you should, I'll be honest with you, if you guys were my younger brothers and sisters, and some of you might be older than me, I would expect you to doubt me. I would expect that, right? Have I picked up the phone on YouTube and won business with clients? The answer is yes. I've recorded it many a times, right? Have I actually done this for many, many a years? Go on my LinkedIn. It's all there. All the history's there, right? I could have made that up. Let's say I made that up. My details are there on Company's House, right? A lot of people lie, but my history's there. I've been transparent from day one. My bank statements are on my YouTube videos. I've shown people like 3 years ago, I showed my bank statements and saying I started a recruitment company, and these are my bank statements. This is how much money I made. I've been very, very, very transparent from day one, and today I still continue to be transparent. Next week, Thursday, one of our students who has gone through our portal and program and set up his recruitment company. Is it Wednesday, Thursday? Yeah, on Thursday, I'm actually going on a client meeting with one of my students who has started his own recruitment company. Was that part of the course? No, it wasn't part of the course. But guess what? I genuinely do enjoy helping people who want to work hard. I genuinely enjoy that, by the way. Like it gives me satisfaction knowing that people have actually, left their jobs and are making good money. And if it means that I can now go on a meeting with you for 3 hours, I promise you something. I'm taking myself away from all my businesses for 3 hours to go with this brother on this client meeting. But it makes me super happy because I know at the end of that meeting, that client is going to think this company is good. This director that came, because I'm gonna say, look, like I'm this guy's director sort of thing and a senior. This director is something special, and I definitely know that I can get exclusivity, or at least open that door for this student with this company. And guess what? It will be recorded. I will record it, and I'm telling you guys now, by the way, because one, I believe in myself. Two, I have nothing to hide. I'm completely transparent. Three, you can see this stuff on an ongoing basis, man. Like it's not made up. So look, I don't wanna go into too much in terms of like my stuff. I wanted to make this especially about why the recruitment industry is a good industry to get into in 2024.